Since President Hassan Rouhani came to power over a year ago, he has tried to move towards opening up Iran to the world and loosening up on domestic repression. But Iran's human rights record remains a stain. Jailed for attending a men's volleyball match, 21-year-old British Iranian Gonche Ghavami has now gone on a second hunger strike to protest her one-year sentence. 2 weeks ago, 26-year-old Rehane Jabari was hanged, convicted of killing a man that she had accused of raping her. Iran has also detained at least 35 journalists, including Iranian-American Jason Rezaian, who's been held without public charge since July. But it was the fate of British-Iranian journalist Maziar Bahari who brought this whole issue most to light back in 2009, when he was arrested, jailed and tortured after being accused of spying during the disputed Iranian election of 2009. And it's this story which is the powerful subject of the first film to be directed by the famous American news satirist Jon Stewart of The Daily Show. Jon Stewart, Maziar Bahari, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Nice to be here.
Your film, amazing. It opens here next week. So, Jon, why did you choose? What was going on in your head and your life that you chose this particular subject as your first film?
I had always wanted to be in the Directors Guild, and so I was looking for anything, and the script happened to come across.
So,
No,
did you feel guilty?
No.
Was that part of why you did it? Because it was, after all,
Yes.
your show that landed my colleague, Maziar Bahari, in jail in Iran.
No, actually, it's not true.
No, it's not true. Okay.
No, it's not true, no.
I wish our show had that power.
Yes, yes.
Well, let's play this bit. Let's play this bit, and then
All
we'll
right.
talk about it.
Oh, let's
This
do
is the skit that
Yes.
you were asked to do with Jason Jones of The Daily Show.
Correct.
We headed to a coffee shop off Azadi Square for a clandestine meeting with Iranian journalist Maziar Bahari. I was told he'd go by the code name Pistachio, and I would recognize him by...
Oh. I didn't see you there.
The one thing I could understand was that this entire country is evil.
The first thing to know about Iran is that it's not evil.
Yeah.
So there's your Jason Jones
Yeah.
pretending to be a spy
That's
and
correct.
accusing Iranians of being all evil, and you're saying, no, they're not.
Yes. If ever there was an offense to be arrested for, I'd say that's it.
Well,
That's got to be it.
You then made that the sort of premise of your film, because let's play the other little piece from Rosewater now, which is the interrogation of yourself because of this clip.
So can you tell me why just journalists meet up with this American spy on the eve of the unrest?
He's not a spy.
He's not a spy?
No, it's a show.
It's a show?
A comedy show. It's super stupid.
It's very stupid, yes.
He's a comedian pretending to be a spy.
So can you tell me why American pretended to be a spy had chosen to interview you?
And why would a real spy have a TV show?
So the whole spy CIA thing. I mean, we're laughing and grinning now, but that was serious.
Well, they were following Maziar, though. He was under surveillance.
They had a whole scenario, and, you know, I have to repeat that over and over again, that The Daily Show did not have to do anything with my arrest, but they wanted to implicate me. They had a scenario for me, and they told me that I was spying for the CIA, MI6, Mossad, and Newsweek, and in the absence of any evidence, because I was not a spy, they brought ridiculous charges, including this Daily Show appearance.
And then, of course, you wrote the book,
Right.
which you read and liked and decided to adapt this film.
Well, he and I had actually been, we became friendly after he was released and sort of having breakfast, and then I was going to try and help him get the book produced.
I was writing the book.
He was
when
writing
we
the
met,
book
yeah.
at that time, and when I started seeing the sheets of it in the galleys, he has an incredible ability to compartmentalize the pain of the experience, to be able to maintain an ability to analyze it, to connect it to his family, his culture, his past. It was such a rich tapestry. The book is so compelling that I wanted to be a part of it.
You also focus very much on the absurdity of what happened in Iran to you, and you watching it.
The absurdity
silly.
comes from reality. While you have 66 journalists in prison in Iran right now, while they have arrested almost 300 journalists since 2009, more than 1,000 since the beginning of the revolution, and for Rouhani come to your show saying that Nobody is in prison in Iran because of journalism.
Right.
That is ridiculous. That's funny. So
And not just
all
Iran,
I did was
you
that
know.
I just transcribed those
Right.
ridiculous things in the book.
And not just Iran, you know, it's Turkey has all these, you know, these Al Jazeera reporters are being held in Egypt. The United States has prisoners in solitary. We put pressure on journalists. You see that now. You know, this is a ubiquitous issue. We don't want it to be just dismissed as the eccentricity of one authoritarian regime.
Your friend, Bassem Youssef,
Yes.
who often has been called the Jon Stewart of Egypt, is also under similar heavy pressure in Egypt and may never be able to do his show there for the
I
foreseeable
think they've
future.
driven him off. They've driven him off the air. Crimes that Bassem was charged with. He's a satirist who does shows. They've charged him with, you know, the defiling of a nation, the, you know, the corroding of the sun. It's absurd.
I want to play some video that we'll talk over. It's, again, from Rosewater, the film, and it shows you saying goodbye to your wife, Paola, who was pregnant with your first child. What was it like for you and for her when you were obviously completely bereft of any contact? Did you even know that she knew what was happening to you when you were actually in jail?
No, I did not. I was in solitary confinement for 107 days. And what happens in solitary confinement is that they deprive you of all your senses. You cannot smell anything, you cannot touch anything, you cannot see anything really. So you become isolated, you become delusional, you become suicidal. And only when they told me that I was called Mr. Hillary Clinton, and I knew that the Secretary of the State of the United States was talking about me, that I knew something was going on.
You know, now there's this big debate over whether families of those who are in prison should actually talk about it.
I think they always have to talk. I think no one has ever been released because the families have been silent. And no one has ever been harmed because their families have talked about them.
And Gael Garcia Bernal, who plays you, I mean, he's phenomenal. He's really great in this.
He's okay.
What was it like to be played by him?
I think he dances a little bit better than me, just a little bit, not that much, but no, he's an amazing actor. And
what does this say to you, or do you not have a message about American-U.S. relations?
Iran-U.S. relations.
Yeah, America's relatively on good terms with the U.S. at this
Iran-U.S. relations.
Well, I mean, I think in general, the general dialogue at this point is the United States refers to them as part of the axis of evil, and they refer to us as death to America. So right now, the conversation is stilted.
Stilted, to say the least.
But that's a caricature on both sides, and it's one-dimensional. And hopefully, even though I'm not Iranian, and if you are Iranian, if you come from there, the film will seem maybe simplistic or reductive to the grand nuance of the culture and the country. Hopefully, for a Western audience, it's a more nuanced view than they've seen before, and hopefully it begins to stir the conversation of two cultures filled with humans.
Which actually goes full circle back to the original skit that maybe some people think got you in trouble in the first place. You were trying to show the absurdity of these preconceived notions. Is this a commercial film, do you think?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
What do you want people to take away?
Box of Raisinets and a big soda? I don't know. What I would like them to take away is, oddly enough, optimism and a sense of that these types of oppressive regimes, this type of authoritarian regime is unsustainable. As we learned that colonialism was unsustainable, that we learned that imperialism is unsustainable. This idea that you can use treasure and human capital to build these apparatuses to suppress information is far more devastating to a country than whatever piece of information it is. And I think it's the idea that Maziar, even under the type of duress that he was able to retain his humanity through his memories of his family, of his culture, of remembering his own humanity is what sustained him. And that, I think, is why they are defeatable. They're not monsters. And I think it's important to remember it that way.
And that humor is very symbolic of Iranian culture, because Iran has been invaded and raped and pillaged by many different powers, from Alexander the Great to Genghis Khan to the Allied forces, the British, the Russians, Saddam Hussein. but they have retained their humanity through sense of humor. You know that, Iranians are very funny. They make jokes about everything. They tolerate these really horrible tragedies through their sense of humor, and I think that's shown in the film as well.
Do you think you'll be able to go back?
I can always go back, but it's difficult to come out because I have a 16-and-a-half-year sentence.
Yeah.
I have a 16-and-a-half-year sentence in absentia plus 74 lashes.
Oh, wow.
And you were talking about ridiculous sentences and ridiculous behavior of the Iranian government. I was sentenced to 74 lashes because someone tagged a picture of Ahmadinejad kissing a boy, former President Ahmadinejad kissing a boy, on my Facebook page. And they said that through this photo, you are saying that Ahmadinejad is a homosexual. And because of that, you have to suffer 74 lashes. It is ridiculous. It's laughable. But unfortunately, these people are in power.
I think you end the film with a sort of a defiance. You have a child who's taking pictures in the end. Tell me about the end of the film and what that message was.
I think through a joke structure. And in some ways, it's the punchline, which is, so in order to keep an actual journalist from filming something that really happened and just broadcasting it, they have built this incredible bureaucracy to incarcerate people, to torture them, to confess on television, to dissuade those that won't. It is expensive. It comes at the cost of I think, humanity of those that have to execute the torture. And at the very end, a 9-year-old boy goes, oh, well, then I'll do it. And I thought that it was a wonderful way to undercut the idea that these regimes will ever be able to accomplish their goal in the manner that they wish.